So it is 7:01, so I think I'll start. Good evening and welcome. My name is Nat Welch. I'm co-chair of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail Committee, and I'm calling this public meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. This meeting is being recorded. Today's agenda was posted on the committee page on the town website, and in accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Order of March 12, 2020, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, we are conducting this meeting virtually. To ensure public access to the deliberations of the meeting, the public may get to this through video conferencing or telephone. And following the instructions that are on the agenda, which was posted. If you haven't already done so, please identify yourself on the screen. You can do this by clicking on the three dots at the upper right of your picture and filling in using the rename feature. We're going to keep most everybody's microphones muted during this, and in order to limit background noise. And if you do have a question or a comment, we will call on you. And in order to know that you actually have a question or comment, please use I think we have it here, right? The raise hand feature, or do we? That's under the reaction section. Is that correct, Marcia?
That is correct, under
Okay.
reactions.
Okay, so you can raise your hand by clicking on reactions. As you'll note in the posted agenda, the members of the public will have an opportunity to ask questions, provide public comment, and give feedback. We will also, at certain parts of the committee's discussion, ask for input from the public. And again, please raise your hand so we can see it. All votes will be taken by roll call vote. And in the event of any technical difficulties where Zoom becomes unavailable, all matters on the agenda that have not been heard will automatically be continued to the next committee meeting. Today, we have a little emergency backup in case Marcia's internet goes down. Richard Follander, my co-chair, will be taking over the helm, but hopefully that won't happen. Yes, thank you. And thank you, Richard, for doing that, and Marcia for being prepared. The minutes for tonight's meeting will be taken by a member, Adrian Boardman. And I'd like to thank Adrian again for her excellent minutes and for agreeing to do it tonight. At this time, I'm going to ask the committee to indicate that they are present and confirm their audio. Richard Follander?
Present.
John Soden? You're muted.
Present.
Good, thank you, John. Carol Steele?
Here.
Adrian Boardman?
Present.
Dorcas Miller?
Present.
And myself, Nat Welch, I am present. So we have a quorum with all 6 members of the committee being here. Just a couple of introductory remarks. Tonight's agenda has been modified slightly from what was posted. Due to timing issues, the overview of the Neshoba Regional Greenway discussion with Mr. Phil Posner has been postponed for 2 months. Mr. Posner will appear at the July meeting to cover this topic. Apologies for that change. With regard to the 75% plan, design plan and fencing, we think there may be some comments here. This plan is now posted on the committee website for review. I'm going to ask everyone who has comments on this to please send them to the committee. Obviously tonight there'll be a public session where you can mention it, but any comments that we receive will be reviewed and passed on to Mass DOT during the public comment period, which I believe is over the next month or so. And anyone is obviously free to comment directly on the MassDOT website, as well as to send them to Marcia Rasmussen, who will get all the ones we receive anyway. So Marcia's mailbox, I'm sure, will be full. I'm going to ask that today any comments or questions regarding the 75% design be held until the member comment and question section of today's meeting, a business agenda, and also in the public comment side. So everyone will have a chance to raise questions if they have it. Our next agenda item, let me pause. Any comments or questions from the committee? You all set? Okay. Our next agenda item is to approve the minutes from the last meeting. These were sent to the committee members. Does anybody have any edits or questions on these minutes from April 1st, 2021?
I move the minutes be approved.
Second.
We'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Boardman?
Approve.
Richard?
Yes.
Dorcas?
Yes.
John?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
And I, Nat Welch, aye. The minutes are passed by unanimous roll call vote. Thank you. I'd like to ask Marcia Rasmussen, Director of Planning and Land Management, to provide her monthly update to the committee. Marcia, you have the floor.
Oh, thank you, Nat. The memo that I prepared for the committee, it was also posted first thing this morning. Phase 2A is completed and ready for all to enjoy. 2B, the regular construction meetings have resumed as of April. And I learned at the first meeting in April that the anticipated completion date is actually next summer, the summer of 2022. And I don't recall if it's June or July, but they anticipate installing the bridge over Route 2 this summer. And then they'll be working to get the base ready for paving. Right now, some of you may have experienced the detours over the past 2 weekends to allow for the construction of the wildlife culvert. 19 of 20 sections of that culvert have been installed. Due to high groundwater, they were unable to get the 20th one done, but once they do that, they will begin, they will then pour the head walls for those culvert. Over the next couple of weeks, they're going to be excavating in the median to for the installation of guardrails, and then to begin the forming of the center support for that pier that's going to be going over Route 2. So there's going to be a lot of construction activity out there over the next couple of weeks, as well as preparing various bridge abutments and head walls. The interpretive panel information has been submitted to the design maker or the sign maker Fossil, and our Concord Town staff, Heather Carey, in my office, has been reviewing and approving those samples for the contractor. On the 2C updates, Co-Chair Nat Welch is coordinating with Mass DOT staff regarding the trail counts that are going to be held later this month. So I think you'll be providing an update later in the meeting on that. And the Transportation Advisory Committee will be meeting next Wednesday, I believe, to continue consideration of additional signage and some pavement markings around Junction Park to direct cyclists to get off their bikes and walk, as well as other people on wheels who might be on skateboards or razors. Then for the last half mile of Phase 2C, after that April 22nd special meeting, we requested further revisions to the 75% design plans. Those have been prepared. Those are now on the website. There's been a delay in, excuse me just a minute. There's been a delay in submitting to Mass DOT. Sudbury requested an opportunity to review those plans. And so they will be, and their contractor, Fuss & O'Neill, will then incorporate the plans from Concord into the design package, which will go to Mass DOT for review by the state. So that's anticipated mid-May. And then 2D, Beth Sudemeyer, my counterpart, said that, indicated that Fuss & O'Neill is incorporating those revisions that were identified by the town of Sudbury. The landscape plan is going to continue to be revised prior to the 100% based on ongoing communication with the butters, and that the budget appears to be in good shape, is being updated for some additional amenities and landscape features. So they are not anticipating any change of delivery of the environmental permit applications with the 100% design plans. And then for the Community Connections Grant, I've received final contract documents from Mass DOT. That's for the bike racks and shelters for the West Concord Commuter Station. And I need to get the town manager to sign off on that and finalize the contract. And then I can order the materials and coordinate with Public Works, Concord Public Works, to install the equipment over the summer. It needs to be completed by September of this year. So that's my update. If there are any questions.
Questions from the committee? Anybody? So I do have one question, Marcia, just to summarize. if people have comments about the design fencing, how long do they have to get them to you?
I think, I don't have a specific date from Mass DOT, but I will find out and I will try to get that out to the committee and to people that I have heard from.
Okay, all right, great. Let's see. Questions that relate to Marcia's memo. I'd like to keep anything about the design plans until a little bit later in the session. Does anybody have questions on non-design plan issues? Deborah Elwood, please.
Yeah, thank you, Marcia. I was just wanted a little bit more clarity where you
I'm sorry,
said
could you
that-
just give your address? Thank you.
I'm at 173 Stone Root Lane. Thank you.
Thank you.
I wondered if you could just give a little more clarity on, you said there's some delay with relation to the work with Sudbury. I just didn't understand what you said. If you could just explain that a little bit.
The town of Sudbury is also designing their 75% design plans. And their contractor is the lead contractor for this project. So they need to, we're on Sudbury's schedule. Our plans will go to Sudbury and become part of that package that is then submitted to the state. Is that?
Yeah, but you said there was some delay. Just wondered what that was about.
Well, they wanted, the town staff wanted some additional time to review, and then,
Okay.
and Fuss and O'Neill needs to take their comments into consideration in those plans that are being prepared.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Okay.
I think Stephen Goodman may have a question.
Stephen Goodman, you have your hand up. Thank you. Please introduce
Hello.
yourself.
Hi, Stephen Goodman, Jenny Dugan Road. I just wanted to follow up on the kind of 2-year ongoing question about the, half dozen dead trees that were supposed to be replaced along the trail. I don't know if this is the time or you wanted me to wait to the end during public questions, but I know Marcia's been very diligent about it.
Marcia, do you have any comments?
Then I did confirm with the state that any replacement trees at this, they've already replaced trees once, so that they will not be doing, the state will not be doing any additional replacements. I need to coordinate with Town of Concord to remove the dead trees and see when we can get some new trees planted.
That okay, Stephen?
Yeah, thanks for the update.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. As I said, the Neshoba Regional Greenway presentation will be in July, and I'm going to flip the trail count agenda item with the middle school building committee item. The new school building will be constructed on property that abuts the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail, and the committee wanted to get a sense of what the plans were and how the project will link with the rail trail, and we have some other questions. So to do that, I'd like to introduce Kristin Olsen, the project manager from Smma. They are the architecture and engineering firm that were selected by the middle school building committee through a competitive and qualifications-based selection process. Kristin, the Zoom floor is yours, as long as you unmute.
Great, thank you. Thank you for inviting us. So we've been scheduling as many listening sessions as possible to try and get as much input as possible. We're in the very early stages of the project, so there isn't a lot of detail to show you at this time, which is why we're kind of on an absorbing side of things right now. So we have some slides that provide an overview of where we are right now. And then we want to get to Q&A as quickly as possible so that, again, we can gather input from you.
Okay, and Marcia, you control the horizontal and the vertical.
Are you able to see that?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you. So,
Marcia, can you go to full screen with that, do you think? Or would that be a problem? Let's not worry about it. Okay, let's just go ahead. Sorry. Kristin, you're muted again. There you go.
great. So on our next slide, we have an overview of the project goals that we've been operating under for this restart of the feasibility study that we've been working on since January. We have a project cost range that we're operating within that started with the definition in 2019 with some modifications based on information gathered over the last year and a half. Our biggest goal, of course, is to combine the two middle schools into one grade 6 through 8 middle school on the Sanborn site, which will be home to a design enrollment of 700 students. So that's the design number that we're working toward for the space planning. The team teaching model is what is already underway at your middle schools, and that will continue in the new building. The new building will be planned as net zero energy ready. And we have a very robust sustainability subcommittee that is working with us on some of the nuances of that plan. Go to the next slide. So in terms of the timeline, we are just now wrapping up the feasibility phase of the project. The feasibility phase is a really early information gathering phase where we start with the educational plan developed by the school. We defined in January and February some of the space summary and project requirements, very high level requirements for how many classrooms and so on. And then we transitioned into developing concepts around those spaces. Now we're at this final stage where we're working on the report, but also transitioning into schematic design. And at the end of the presentation, I'll show where that fits into the big picture, because we are not too late for input. So this is a little bit more on that team teaching structure. Up in the upper right, you see what one team is comprised of, its core subjects with science and a team commons. Again, this is already occurring in your middle schools and is a very good social emotional approach to teaching in middle school. One grade level is comprised of 3 of those teams, and that's shown on the lower bar. We can go to the next slide. So once we get through the conceptual piece of educational planning and programming, we start to make those spaces take shape, and we have these block diagrams where we've formed all of the green, for example, are those teams. So there are 3 layers for 1 grade each of 3 teams per grade level. In the purple, you have your media center, blue is your gymnasium, orange an auditorium, and things like that. So we started to pop up these 3-dimensional spaces so that we can begin to organize them on the site. So we did take an early stab at this last year. So because the feasibility study had kind of a first phase last year, and we've done a lot of refinements this year. So these are those refined plans. In these particular 2 plans, we were looking at 2 different gymnasium sizes. So that's the one thing that changes there off to the left. This is the ground floor level of 3 floors. And so there is 1 below and 1 above, but only on the right-hand side. So on the right-hand side, those green you'll recognize again are the classrooms, and we're thinking of 1 grade per floor level. And that will be kind of the academic wing is what we're calling it. On the left-hand side, we have more of the larger spaces, your auditorium, cafeteria, media center, also called a library in some cases, and the gymnasium. Those are your public-facing sides. So that's the side of the building that we anticipate seeing a lot more after-hours use of by the community. And it's very frequent in school design that you would separate these 2 so that you can kind of section off the academic side and the public can continue use of the community resource spaces after hours. So now I'll hand it off to my colleague, Mike Dohan, our landscape architect.
Good evening, everyone. So this is our first preliminary shot at a site plan. You can see how the building sits within the site here. And what we've tried to do is simplify the site plan as much as possible and really just sort of compartmentalize all the different site programmatic elements. You can see around what Kristin was mentioning as the classroom wing, you'll see that there's a lot of open space around there. We're anticipating a lot of outdoor classrooms, a lot of student movement around outdoors, outside the media center as well. That bridge piece you can see is sort of the bridge piece between the two pieces of the building. Thank you. There's a lot of pedestrian movement and through there and going on, and we're really trying to make a concerted effort to make a connection from the existing woods and the woodlands out and pulling the woods as best as we can out into the site itself. Sort of in the more public realm part of the building, that's where all the parking, vehicular circulation, buses, parents, everything is out over through there. And then we've got this really strong line that sort of bisects the building and bisects the site. And that's sort of the pedestrian area where we lead students from the buses into the building. On the right side of that, you'll see that there's a little bit of a landscape buffer, and then further to the right side of this, and we have a more contextual image in just a moment, is where all the outdoor recreation program will live. If you can go to the next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. We included a really rough preliminary axonometric bird's eye view here. You can kind of get a feeling of how the building is really trying to engage with the landscape as much as possible. This option we call is treetop teams, and it's truly called that because a lot of the classroom areas are looking out into, literally out into the treetops of the existing trees to remain. And we feel like it's a really compelling design. If you want to go to the next slide, please. This shows a little more context. This is probably what you're probably the most interested in. I just want to say to start off, you can see that some red sort of dashed outlines up through there. Yeah, thank you. That's the existing building and the existing parking area. So this hopefully gives you a little bit more context of where the new building is going to go. You can see from this too that we'll be able to build the new building without impacting the existing building. So students will be able to stay in the existing building while the new one is built. And then they'll just switch over. We'll take the old building and parking down and turn that into the fields. You can hopefully see down along the bottom there, there's a line, the linear sort of, you can see the rail trail there kind of bisecting through the trees. There you go. Yeah, so that's the location of the rail trail. So you have an understanding of it where it sits in context with the proposed building. That lower open space that you see right next to it, those are the existing fields that are there right now. Those fields, there's no improvements of those fields as part of this project. Those fields are going to stay as is, and there's a few reasons for that. But those are going to stay as is. The connection from the trail to the proposed building, plus or minus the grade at, if you take an average of the grade along the rail trail, it's at about elevation 142. The proposed finished floor elevation that we've set right now for the building is about elevation 192. So even though it looks flat here, as you're all probably aware, you all know the site, there's about a 50-foot grade change between the rail trail and what the new building is going to be. It might be a little less than that at the back of the classroom wing, maybe 10 or 12 feet lower than that, but it's a pretty significant slope from the rail trail up to the building. But this kind of gives you a feeling of the proximity to the trail. It's, you know, the classroom wing is probably about as close to the trail as the existing building is now. The finished grade, the finished elevation of the building is probably going to be pretty close to what it is now. So if you can imagine the grade difference between the two now, it's going to be pretty close to what it is in the proposed condition as well. All set.
Great. So just to put us a little bit back into context of where we are, the bright yellow on the far left is the feasibility study. The pale yellow is schematic design, which is what we're transitioning into right now. Those two schedules pretty much line up whether you're in schedule A or B. The building committee is still looking at how exactly we should plan for the special town meeting and so on. So they're currently just hypothetical dates for town meeting and town election. And then that would then drive the rest of the design schedule and construction. So from between now and the end of this year, though, we will be in schematic design, and that will be a lot more information gathering and then putting more detail into the project site and into the building itself. And then at the end of schematic design, we do a detailed estimate. That estimate is then taken to town meeting and then to town vote subsequently. So it's really, we have all of this time through the end of the year to really define in more detail what we want in the project and what it fits within the budget and scope. And then after town vote, we would commence with the rest of design, followed by bidding and construction. So the target opening is for the first quarter of 2025. And then we can go to one more slide, I think. And so this, right now, I just wanted to show, because it is on top of mind for so many, this is a very expensive project for the town. Schools are very expensive projects for any town. And so we've been looking at it in the context of all schools that are being sponsored by the Massachusetts School Building Committee. And so the CMS project is that Red Cross there, and it's right about in the bulk of the other projects planned in its time. So so we are on target with costs right now, and we're going to do a lot of diligence to keep it there the best we can. So I think that wraps up our overview. So we can either go back to the site plan if people want that up in the background while we talk.
Yeah, I think that would be good.
Yeah.
I think that would be good. First, I'll ask committee members. I can't see everybody. Marcia, I don't know if you can see them, but let's see if I can pull them up here. Do any committee members have any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, Richard.
Is there any provision for a paved trail from the bike trail onto the new school grounds that would lead up to, I suppose, the parking lot?
I can start that, and then Mike can maybe follow. Actually, in our first phase of the feasibility study last year, we had looked at improving those lower fields. And in doing so, we were planning on a paved path that was an accessible route to those paths, to those fields. As Mike mentioned, the grade change is so significant. It was quite difficult to plan an accessible route, because that is the requirement for any new construction.
Okay.
Down to those fields, and it became cost prohibitive to hit the project budget and provide that.
So it would have to be like a serpentine situation. So at this point, I assume you would ride to Powder Mill Road and then come back down toward the school in some fashion.
So there are existing trails in the woods. Is that right, Mike? Mike's walked all of the woods.
There is one existing trail through the woods. Unfortunately, it's super steep. I think it would be it was a push just to walk up it. I wonder how it would be for a student to be able to push a bike up that hill, to be honest.
Yeah.
With you. And like I said, it's a 50-foot grade change, so it's not like it's steep, but it's only 10 feet. It's steep and it's 50 feet long, 50-foot grade change. So it's going to be really tricky to try to fit something in there. And like Kristin said, that was the impetus for us to sort of step back a little bit from improvements down there.
Other committee questions? Committee members? So I have a question, which is, 50-foot grade does sound like a lot. And I think what we've heard through the Safe Routes to School groups, from other neighborhood groups, the trail is close to a number of the schools, and it would be a shame to not try and think creatively about how you might create a trail that is accessible. And I've not brought up the money issue, but I think it's important that as part of this, that at least a couple of things be thought about in terms of how you connect the school to the trail, because we have a pretty robust program now of people riding to school. And it seems to me that it would be a good opportunity to think, maybe it's not, the shortest route between the classroom building and the trail. Maybe it meanders, by the playing fields and works its way up. I'm not sure. And I understand it does need to be accessible, and certainly we feel that way, but we have a lot of folks, as I said, who I think would be looking to figure out how to use this trail, which is a very safe route. It's great for the kids to get exercise, the parents ride with them, and so on. So what would the process be to at least understand a couple of the options, but not necessarily add it into the building cost? In other words, we might have to have a different way of funding it.
So I think that, we're open to exploring a lot of these things. We definitely acknowledge that connection could be very, very valuable, and that other funding mechanisms may be present to assist it get getting to the finish line. So I think that the best way is that during schematic design, we will have opportunities to engage in comment on the site design. For the most immediate term, I would advise that the advisory committee here write a letter asking for it to be considered by the design team formally.
Okay.
And then we can do something very high level schematic, sufficient that there could be pricing at least put to it in our estimating process. But we would lean on local information heavily as to where we might connect best, you know, because we only have the purview of what's within the property.
Mhm.
If there's some other opportunity, then we would definitely need advice on that.
And I'm Pat Nelson. I'm the co-chair of the Middle School Building Committee. And I just wanted to say again what Kristin said about writing a letter. That's really effective for us as a committee. And getting in this early in the game to make it clear what you're looking for will be very helpful.
Okay, thank you. Yes, the committee does like to do site walks. So we'd be more than happy to walk with Michael and Kristin all over and, you know, come up with some ideas. But it sounds like one of our action items this evening would be to vote on whether we send a letter to the building school committee. And that Pat, that's where it would go, right? It'd be directed to the Concord Middle School Building Committee. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Other committee member questions?
I should say there's another use for that trail to connect from the rail trail to the school. The school biology department comes down across the railroad trail, the rail trail, down into the swamp area, Jenny Dugan, for biology projects.
Hmm.
So it would be useful to have a designed trail for them too.
It would have multiple purposes, educational purposes at that.
We love connecting to our nearby outdoor classrooms. So Mike will be very excited about that.
Okay. I invite any members of the public who have questions. I can't see everybody. And Marcia, you're
Stephen has one.
Stephen, okay. Steve.
Okay, yeah, Stephen Goodman, Jenny Dugan. More two comments. Great that the two committees are kind of coming together. The first comment is kind of with my parent hat on. I like this idea of less is more. I know students, not just my own, but others, do use the trail and to go to the middle school, and they're young, they're strong, and they're physical, and they have no problem getting from the trail to the classroom. So, you know, with all the constraints around budgets and needs, it works now. I wouldn't necessarily say that there would need to be some kind of formal path. I think kids can do it now, and they can continue to do it. So that's, you know, it's super, I think, kind of transitioning my second comment, you know, being involved with the planning of the trail for 10 years, which I'll note makes me very young to the process because there has been decades in the planning. It is quite exciting to see, you know, the trail being used by parents and students, and it'd be great to know if staff would use it. It's just, you know, decades of planning have shown this. And I think goes back to what I said before, it's kind of less is more. One of the original conceptual designs, I think, showed a tennis court right next to the trail. And that was kind of alarming because I think one of the things that the building committee needs to know is, you know, the decades of planning and thoughtfulness, the aesthetic, the design of the trail. And, you know, one big theme is around the natural environment, not just 50 yards where the school is. There are, you know, sensitive and really dynamic wildlife. There are even signs that were planned and now up, you know, kind of educating people on how great and sensitive the area is. So the fact that there aren't tennis courts there, the fact that the field, which is a fantastic field to use, is kind of going to be left the way it is, you know, I think it's fantastic. And I hope it stays that way through the rest of the design process. Thanks.
There was a wish list early on from the athletic department of program. And once we started looking at the wish list and the construction of the site, we quickly realized that we couldn't fit everything on here. And, you know, one of the ideas was to put the tennis courts down there, but that never gained any traction at all, to be honest with you.
Okay, good.
And by the way, just to Nat, by the way, it's a great time for site walk. I love site walks. It's a beautiful time of year.
I got my tick spray.
Okay.
So I actually, I do want to comment on Stephen's point about the kids can, you know, there is something there now that they're using. And I'm also aware that the committee has gotten comments before with regard to other items about paving versus non-paving. So I think as we think about this, if there's a more natural way to build a link, and I don't know if you have that grade, whether it's feasible to use more natural materials rather than paving, but I'd also like that to be in the mix as, you know, as we think creatively about how to do it. So just a comment. Any other public comments? I can't see if anybody's got their hand raised, but let's see. I think we're okay.
Yep, I think so.
Okay, so it sounds like we are the committee members kind of on board with an idea of drafting a letter to the middle school committee. I see some nodding heads. So let's see. Someone should make a motion about drafting a letter, appointing somebody. Let's see, Masha, we can appoint someone to draft a letter, right?
Correct.
Okay. Appointing someone to draft a letter to the Concord Middle School Building Committee that would express the general desire to have some thought put into a way to connect the school and the rail trail, but at least get going early in the process. Is there a committee member who would like to take up be the volunteer, as it were?
Nat, I'm happy to draft that. I have kids that I envision hopefully using this connector.
Okay. So
Yes, he will.
So I'm going to make a motion that the committee requests that Adrian Boardman draft a letter for the committee's review at our next meeting, indicating our desire and advising the town to consider including some sort of a connection between the two. Can I get a second for that?
Second.
Okay. I guess I should ask for discussion too. Any comments from the committee in terms of altering the wording, or is that generally good enough?
I think that's good. Should we also be considering a site visit at some appropriate time?
Right, with Michael. Yes. So I think maybe after we get the letter, is there enough time for us to wait a month or two before a site visit, Michael?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. So I want to unmute first. Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll be out there ahead of that, so I'll probably take a closer look. You know, I've been out there a few times pre-COVID. I haven't been out there since then, so I'll probably be stepping out there in the next few weeks again with the rest of my team. So I'll be there to meet informally, but then we can always meet formally after that as well.
Okay. Yeah, because usually we set up we announce a site visit and let open it to the public so they can come along and take a look at what the thoughts are.
Yeah, I think perhaps a site visit, prior to August 1st or sometime this summer.
Okay, good. Can we have a roll call on that motion? Adrian, you're muted.
Ruth, aye.
Ruth, okay. Richard,
Aye.
Dorcas,
Yes.
John,
Aye.
Carol,
Aye.
Nat, me, I say aye as well. The motion passes by unanimous vote. I'd like to thank the SMMA, Pat, and whoever else showed up to do this presentation. We greatly appreciate your time and look forward to further conversations.
Great, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Right. Next on the item is a trail count update. As a reminder, there will be a trail count this month. 3 weekdays, Tuesday, May 18th, May 19th, and May 20th. 2 counting periods, 7 a.m. to 9 and 4 p.m. to 6. On the weekends of Saturday and Sunday, the 22nd and 23rd, account at noon time, noon to 2. I've checked in with the Central Transportation Planning Group. I always forget what they stand for. And they said that so far there are only 4 people in Concord who have signed up for Concord counting. Acton has been much better covered. I assume Barbara has more influence over there. So we have quite a few gaps in terms of the number of people available for counting. I have signed up. I hope other committee members have a chance to, but I'd like to get some input onto how we might get more people. I think one question, Marcia, is are we allowed to send a note to people who signed up for notices from the committee on the website? Can we use that as a option to let them know the counts are happening?
What we can do is a news and notices that would go out to all those people who have signed up for news and notices. So
Okay.
yes, I can get that that document prepared and ask Aaron Stevens to send it out either tomorrow or early next week.
Okay, all right. Other thoughts in terms of people to connect with, the committee members? Any ideas how we might get a little bit more coverage?
Well, I haven't signed up yet. I'll sign up. I also have there's some people involved with Concord Bikes and the Bike to School group who I can reach out to. I mean, Bike to School is happening this week. There's a bike rodeo this weekend, so they're probably a little busy, but I'll reach out to some of those folks as well. If it's possible, can we generate, I know Nat, you're the man to do this, a simple spreadsheet that shows the openings.
Yes.
So that we could share that with people and say, these are the dates we need you, because it's a little cumbersome to go to the state and fill it out.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Right with us.
So I will take out that action item to create it, and I'll share it with the committee and Richard with you. Maybe also I can as long as I'm not breaking any rules, I'm happy to print out a schedule that we can hand out at the rodeo and others, and put in where the sign up is, so people can take a look and sign up for doing it.
Yeah. Can you help me? I somehow missed out on where is the sign up for this?
The sign, there's a link on the committee webpage.
Okay.
I believe, Marcia, we added that, correct or no?
Not yet. That's why I asked you to send it to me today. Because we haven't.
Okay. So Carol, there will be a link on the committee webpage, and I think in the next 24 hours.
Now, does that mean I have to go to the town website?
To the committee page, and there'll be a link there, and then that will connect you to the exactly to where you sign up on the Boston MPO site. And you know, it's pretty straightforward. It's a little cumbersome. Then there's a drop-down menu where you select the sites in Concord, a site in Concord that you want to go to. And
perhaps Nad, you could send out that link just to the committee members.
I will do that. Thank you.
We could easily send that to other people who don't want to go to the town website to
Got
have
it.
the link.
That's a good idea. Thank you for suggesting that. Carol, I guess the easier I make it for you, the faster
Yes.
it happen. Okay.
For
Got it.
all of us.
Got it for all. Okay, good. I will send out the link directly. And the 3 locations are at the Neshoba Brook Bridge, just past the parking lot, at Route 62, where it crosses Main Street, at the bike repair station, and at Powder Mill Road. Those are the 3 locations, and they're listed on the site, but I'll send those out. Anybody good on Facebook? Or I'm just wondering if there are any bike groups on Facebook, Richard, that you're, maybe we can ask Phil or somebody else. Maybe they have some.
There is a Facebook page for Bike to School, I think, yes.
Okay. All right. So maybe I'll work with you on that on the side. That would be great.
I was also wondering if maybe it's something, I don't know if anyone else is active on the Nextdoor site that kind of sends notices to groups of neighbors in town. So I know like in West Concord, Throw Hills, where I am, there's a really active like population of people that post notices and questions, and I think you can span out to different neighborhoods in town. So I'm happy to take a stab at seeing, living in West Concord, what's the widest I could post something to. But in addition to like the news and notices that Marcia mentioned, it could be another way of just getting information out to the folks in town.
So if I send you the link, do you think you could post it into
Yeah,
that?
happy to.
That would be great.
I've been on Nextdoor a little bit. It gets Lincoln involved. In fact, I was out on the West Coast. Now I'm against getting San Francisco West Coast.
Oh, really?
So,
Yeah, it takes a while to like fine tune your preferences, so you only actually see people in your neighborhood. Yeah, that's crazy.
And I know Barbara Pike has been working very hard on getting the friends informed as to what's happening on it. So Barbara, I'd like to thank you for, even though you've got Acton having more people, Barbara, it's still good that we get the count going. So appreciate that.
Barbara's got her hand raised. So.
She does. Barbara.
You're not going to be able to see my beautiful shiny face because I can't seem to do the video, but we did have the notice in the spring newsletter, which may be where the Acton signups are coming from.
Right.
And I would suggest that that information could be helpful for people because it gives the times for all the dates and it gives the locations in both towns. I'm asking Judy Perrin, who is our media person, to do a Facebook post. We have like 1,000 and some followers from all over about the count, and to post it on our website. And I didn't know if you wanted to have a press release in the Acton and the Concord weeklies, or if that really didn't do much. And I can also, I don't know if it's worthwhile. There's already one email notice sent out that was the rail trail plus a couple other things to all the friends contacts. And I don't know if we need to send, I don't know if another email would be that effective. Facebook really reaches a lot of people.
Yeah. And I think your idea of using the announcement in the newsletter was very detailed.
Yeah.
It's very helpful.
And I think what you might do is appeal to certain neighborhoods, like the neighborhood around Powder Mill Road, because there's a lot of interest there in the trail and also documenting traffic before and after the bridge.
Yeah.
So I think you had a couple of volunteers down there who haven't actually signed up yet. Maybe they could recruit some other neighbors.
Okay. We can ask our friends down by that area to do that. Other thoughts from the committee?
I have another question.
Yes, Carol.
Now, yeah, I'm trying to check my calendar to see when I can get in at that time. And if I sign up for a 7 o'clock in the morning one, in my mind, I'm thinking I arrived there and I'm not sure what to do. Or do we have instructions or papers that we fill out, or what?
Right. So the thought was if we knew who was going to be signed up when, I've talked with Richard about providing, at least the recording things, send someone a copy of here's what you use. I mean, it's on the website, but try and make it easier for people to do that. So we'd send them an email with a copy of what they needed to use, et cetera. It's pretty straightforward. And if you look at once you get on the website, they actually have a three-part tutorial, and it's pretty easy to follow. It's just, counting whether it's a bicyclist or a walker, and marking it down. Did anyone else have their hand raised? Okay. There was one other. Barbara had mentioned that in West Concord, she sent me a note that there's a Spring into West Concord Junction, May 19th to the 22nd, which overlaps the trail count. And it's a West Concord Village businesses will be having sales, special offers, and fun things to do. So that might be that will probably bring more people into West Concord, but there might be ways for us to ask people that'd be willing to help do a count from there. Okay. Moving on to the next topic, unless there's any other comments. Any committee liaison reports? Oh, Barbara, do you have something else to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to the West Concord shopping days.
Yep.
Before COVID, they had this, and there were committee members, mostly committee members, who just kind of wandered through West Concord and handed out, I think mostly just handed out maps of the trail and maybe newsletters. Or if I think maybe the village committee had a table, maybe we put some there, but I definitely recall wandering through West Concord, maybe with Carol, and handing out rail trail maps. People were very interested.
Okay. So we should, you'd mentioned in an email that we might print some out and have them available.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take on that task of checking on that. And Barbara, maybe you and I can talk about where that table will be, and we could put some there.
Nat,
Well, I actually asked Carlene Hempel, because she seems to know everything about West Concord, and I haven't heard back from her if there's going to be, like, the Recreation Commission, maybe some town group had a table out there, and but we were also just wandering around and handing them out.
Okay. Richard?
I wonder if anybody from the Green Thumbs might be interested in the trail count as a way to get them to also see what's going on vis-a-vis Junction Park.
The Junction Park, yeah.
They did that section. They could two birds with one stone kind of thing.
Carol, you're the Green Thumb person, right? Are you one of them?
No, I'm not.
Oh, it's Dorcas who was.
I'm on the Green Thumbs.
Right, okay.
And I know that they're doing a big plant sale that weekend
Okay.
as part of that whole thing.
It's at Junction Park.
No, I think down in the town, actually. But probably some of them would be interested in doing a count, I would think. We have a website. I could try to put it on.
Right, and they could be guaranteed to have that site nearby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to ask the members if someone would be willing to sign up?
Yep.
Okay, great. After I send you the link.
Right.
Marcia Rasmussen.
I'm leaving town though on for a week on Saturday, so
Okay, get it to you tomorrow.
I guess,
Okay,
yeah.
got it. Thank you. Marcia?
Okay, there's another handout that might be advantageous, and that's about bicycle safety and rules of the road as a cyclist. I would hand that out as well, because a lot of people don't seem to know what the rules of the road are as a cyclist.
Okay, that's a great idea.
And we can print out anything that you might need. So if it maps or that safety brochure.
Okay, so
Also a possibility.
why don't you and I talk about it tomorrow, just figure out what we print out, and then I'll coordinate with Barbara when she figures out where we can hand them.
Great.
Okay, perfect.
As far as I know, there are no tables being set up by town staff or by town boards and committees. This is all for the arts and for the businesses. And so that there's been some coordination, but very little town involvement.
Well, maybe like someone like Deborah's or some other places might be willing to have them available as people walk in.
Right.
Okay. Someone else is trying to speak before I interrupted. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for that and for volunteering some of these things. Are there any committee liaison reports that anyone has to report on?
I was at the Transportation Advisory Committee, and discussion came about Old Marlborough Road, and I think that's going to be under citizen comments later on. So
okay,
that.
Okay, great. Any other member questions or comments? Okay. Just one other note, just to inform the committee, the tunnel art project, I think, is probably on hold right now. Alana has taken up a job in Boston, I think, but we are staying in touch with her, and if it looks like things might proceed, Marcia, I guess, kind of holds the reins as to what the next steps are that need to happen, including getting approval from the, I don't mean you're in charge, I mean you are the shaman for getting this figured out.
Well, because the tunnel is a state property, a state building, a state structure, they have an approval process for artwork that's displayed on any state building. And so it's an additional step. There's a little bit more of the application that needs to be taken care of. And Alana was sent that information, and I offered to assist her in whatever way I can. I can help coordinate with the state as well and let them know that it's delayed. But I think if Alana doesn't go forward with it, that this is a worthwhile project that I believe Richard Follander mentioned that maybe the Umbrella or the art room in West Concord might be two entities that would be interested in moving it forward.
And I'd be willing to, move that along. I guess we could touch base with Alana in a little while and see what the practicality is of her actually doing this at this point. But I think the overall idea is a very good one.
Okay.
We should do it. I mean, it'll also deal with the fact we've got graffiti in there already. This will definitely lessen that opportunity.
Got it. Okay. Thank you, everybody. The floor is now open for public comments and questions. If you could raise your hand, we will call on you. Does anybody have anything they'd like to? Stephen Wright has raised his hand. Could you please introduce yourself and give your address?
Hi, my name's Steve Wright. I live at 137 Stone Root Lane. I just wanted to provide my comments to the committee. Thankful that everyone took into account the concerns that were raised at the last meeting, and looking forward to seeing the 75% plan when it's submitted, or before it's submitted. We took a look at the version that was circulated or that was posted, and it looked like there was a 50-foot gap between the ornamental fencing and the split rail fencing. My understanding is that that's going to be looked at again. So I don't want to say, oh, I don't like it until we see what the final version is, but I would weigh in. I'm literally, from our backyard, we're looking back right out at this. This is literally in my backyard. We're concerned that we want to make sure that there's protection for the pond, and also that we don't have people who are sorry about my daughters there, that we don't have people wandering down to the trust property as well.
Marcia.
That was brought to my attention, and I did reach out to the consultant designer who has made that correction, and the plans have been revised and reposted. So it should have been taken care of. It was an oversight on their part. If you looked at the plan itself, there was overlap, but the note indicated a break, and that's been corrected, and that's what will be submitted.
So just so everybody knows, the 75% design plans are on the town website and available to be looked at, the current versions. I see Galper, Sussman, and Roberts. I will start with Mr. Galper. Please identify yourself.
Hello, I'm Josh Galper, 65 Stone Root Lane in Concord. I'd like to request to the committee, could we have a walkthrough now that there is a 75% plan? The last time there was a walkthrough, the first thing that happened was a memo was distributed saying that the plan was null and void. So I've looked at the plan. I see some design elements that I'm a little confused about, like bushes in that look to be in the middle of the path from my house down to the trail. So I'd really appreciate for our community if we could actually have a walkthrough with this 75% plan now in place, so we can better understand really what's supposed to go where. Is that possible?
I think it certainly is. I think what I'd like to do is understand the process by which the state's going to look at it and whether it makes sense to do the walkthrough now with the plan or wait until the state, says something. Marcia, I guess I'll look to you for what, because you'd be the one who'd be leading the charge.
Actually, it doesn't. I'd be happy to do that. I don't want to necessarily involve the designer because he's already, it's been a lot more than he was anticipating with Mass DOT's initial response and then the revisions that we've been working on. So I'm happy to do it. I think that it would be more productive to hear the comments and concerns and get all of that information and then do a walkthrough to see what might be revised for the 100%.
So what would be a good time to do that, to give people a chance to make the comments and then do a walkthrough once we have the comments in place? Is it a month, you think?
Well, I need to find out. Earlier we talked about what the time frame was for Mass DOT. So let me find that out and then I can let you know. A month or two. I would prefer to do something during June if possible. But I don't know. I don't know what's most productive. That's what I'm weighing here.
So what if we waited for a set of comments to come in?
Additionally, we have the notice of intent going forward. And so there's going to be the hearing with Natural Resources Commission, and they might do a site walk. So it might be something that could be combined.
Do both together.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But something within the next month.
Notice happening. And when will their hearing be, Marcia, do you know yet?
I do not know yet. We're trying to get the documents signed and I'm checking about ownership, who signs as owner and who signs as applicant and getting that clarified. So it's going to be submitted next week. And then it will probably be in June when the Natural Resources Commission will be hearing it.
Okay. So between now and our June meeting, Mr. Galpin, we'll come up with a time for a walkthrough, and obviously it'll be posted, et cetera. Before we end this piece, but any comments from the committee members or thoughts?
I'm wondering if Mr. Galper or anyone else who has a specific concern can put that in writing so that it could be looked at on the plan prior to any kind of walkthrough. And maybe that is actually another little miscue that could be corrected.
Right.
Is that possible?
Sure.
Okay.
Because I would hate to go through a walkthrough and then we have some questions answered and some not answered, or new questions raised, and then we're back into walking through again potentially.
Right.
But I think it's appropriate to have that. And if we can combine it with natural resources, great. But if it's a specific concern, if it's in writing, I think that's going to be the best approach at this point.
Okay. Other comments from committee members? Okay. So it sounds that before the June meeting, which is June 3rd, I think, we will, next meeting, June 3rd, we'll work with Marcia to figure out kind of the coordination. We'd like everyone to send their comments in on the plan, take a look at it and send their comments in. And then we'll figure out a good time to do a walkthrough, probably in June. Does that work for you, Mr. Galper?
It does. Thank you.
Great.
Yes.
I also had on my list Sussman. Ann, please identify yourself.
Hi, I'm Ann Sussman. I'm at 534 Old Marlborough Road. And thank you, Richard, for mentioning us. We did, I can maybe see if my video works. Here we go.
There we go.
I'm a little bit dark here. Thank you very much, Richard. You were very kind. And I just want to say your committee is amazing. The quality of life has just, because I live so near the trail, our quality of life has just improved incredibly. It's amazing. I take it every day because I live on Old Marlborough Road and I have a studio at Bradford Mill. So this is how I commute, by bike and by walking. It's changed my life. It's fantastic. Your work is fantastic. And I know it took years, but it was for a good reason. Thank you. I'll be brief. I can share some slides if you'd like. I'll be very brief. We are very concerned about on Old Marlborough Road, because more people are walking and biking of all different ages, that the cars are going very, very fast, and that we're just terrified there's going to be some accidents. In the past 14 months, there have been 3 car crashes on Old Marlborough Road. On April 5th, the most recent one was right by the rail trail crossing, the official one. On Old Marlborough Road, there's the official rail trail crossing with the yellow lights that flash, but there are also 2 other crossings that people use a lot that don't have lights. One directly opposite the old Rifle Range trails. So people do multiple trails, and they combine trails. That's what happens. So I just want you to know that we're just terribly concerned. The speed limit posted just before the official rail trail crossing is 30 miles per hour. Heading, I guess, west. The speed limit posted on the other side before the rail trail crossing heading east is also 30 miles per hour. Unfortunately, there are a lot of chicanes, or there are a lot of curves in Old Marlborough Road, so people don't see. They have very little time to know the rail trail's crossing. In addition, I was fascinating about you getting data. That's fantastic. You're doing that. My son worked for the census. He'd love to collect data, but you might want to do data also. I'm not sure how you do this and how many people actually push the button when they cross. That'd be fascinating data to have, because from what I've seen, I'd say 50% of the people don't push the button, and bikers aren't going to get off the bike, especially the professional bikers. They just don't. So it's something to really look at. So I just think you just need to be aware that Old Marlborough Road is very, very dangerous. We have been working with the town for about 2 years trying to address this. We've had official speed limits been collected. You need to know, I can show you the data if you want, people, and I'll send that to you, Richard, the latest, if you'd like to share with your committee, our latest Google slideshow that 5 of us in the neighborhood put together. They are clocking 90-mile-per-hour speed limits on Old Marlborough Road, especially on the stretch between Rifle Range and Harrington Avenue, where it is posted for 35 miles per hour. Now, I did show that to a Cambridge planner, and she said that's actually illegal to have 0.2 of a mile at that posting, but who knows? Everyone, every town, every city interprets the law differently. In addition, the problem is from Ornac to the school, and this is going to be more of a problem if 700 kids are in the school. You've got a speed change that happens 1.6 miles. The speed changes 7 times. 7 times in 1.6 miles. And if you talk to transit planners, they'll tell you, the brain, you can't adjust 7 times in 1.6 miles. And so we've got some real huge safety issues. We don't want a disaster on Old Marlborough Road. And look, I'm a mom, we're crazy, but I'm so scared. I'm so scared. And you just need to know that. And so we need to really, I think what I'm seeing in Cambridge, if you've been to Harvard Square recently, I don't know if you know this, you should know this. In Cambridge, 75% of the roads are going to 20 miles per hour. Why? Because they know to have bike pedestrian safety, you have to have, you can't have speed and safety.
So Ms. Sussman, is there something specific you'd like to ask the committee?
I think one thing, well, listen, I think thank you for letting me speak. I think what maybe you might want to look at is, you might ask your other BFRT people, how many other crossings, official crossings, are posted 30 miles per hour before them? I would think you need to find that out. In Cambridge, everything's going to be 20 miles per hour. Right. Three of streets in Cambridge are going to 10 miles per hour.
So the one challenge we have is we only can advise on the rail trail. So certainly we'd be concerned about the crossing. But I think
you did have a crash on April 5th, I believe, right at the crossing. I happened to be walking to work that day, and I saw the people, and they weren't hurt, but they were traumatized. Yeah. The 2 cars crashed, and they were in shock, and they were psychologically traumatized. They weren't physically hurt, luckily. But the fact that already hurt, guys, for me, that's why I'm here. That was a warning call. You need to know there's already been a crash, and this is where I see the big thing happening. That big bridge over Route 2 isn't open yet. Once that opens, you'll have all these people who don't know Old Marlborough Road coming through.
Okay. Well, thank you for bringing that up. Richard, you had a comment?
Yes. Now I know are you going back to the Transportation Advisory Committee at some point? Do you have a specific proposal for what the speed limit should be? I know there were two issues. One was the speed limit's various and it should be one speed limit, but what should that speed limit be? Do you have a?
It should be 25. I think it should be, we're not Cambridge, we're not going to get 20.
Okay, so you're proposing that to the Transportation Advisory Committee.
We would say that between Ornac, where you turn off Route 2 to the school, right? You should have one speed limit, because what happens, people use the trail in really interesting ways. They sometimes go on it and then they get right off it. More people are riding bikes
Right.
on Old Marlboro because of the trail.
And they need to get to it as well.
And they need to get to it as well.
So the town did adopt a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit for the town, except on, I don't know what the technical term is, on special routes. Marcia might know what that is. But you're saying that in this case, this speed limit should be what the town adopted for the whole town.
Right, I believe the town did that.
It's thickly settled.
It's thickly settled, and I believe the town was very wise to do that in December 2018.
Yeah.
But then what happened, they did a DOT regulation that kind of overruled it, with the arterial roads or something could be at 80% of throughput for cars. Well, you can't have speed and safety.
So
and we must prioritize safety.
So again, what Nat has said is there a specific thing you want us to do?
Well, so I would say the specific thing to do would be to look at, is there any other place on the rail trail, even in this area, in our area in Concord, where it's 30 mile per hour posted before the crossing?
Okay.
You might want to look at that. And in Acton, is it 30 miles per hour before crossing?
Maybe.
Yeah, okay.
I think that'd be really good, because I think what we want to do is we're thinking of going to the school committee, because they need to know right now. I mean, I don't want you to have a heart attack. Right now, there's a 35 mile per hour sign posted directly in front of Sanborn Middle School. I know of no other community that would permit that.
So and I think that you're taking to the right place, which is the Transportation Advisory Committee.
Okay.
But
I did want you to know that. Thank you for listening to me about it and hearing my craziness.
But it's not craziness. Not craziness. It's great. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us. I had Roberts had their hand up, but now Mr. Goodman, you're there. I don't know, Kelly, did you want to say something?
Just a response to the previous comment about artwork in the tunnel.
Yes.
I'm all for organic artwork, the democratization of art. So I'd rather it be natural. I've always appreciated the graffiti that's there. That's all. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you for the comment. Mr. Goodman?
Yes, I would just like to make a comment building on what was just said about safety. So safety was about one of maybe 10 issues that the town committed to looking at once the trail was open. I think a lot of these issues are coming to light because of COVID, right? The trail opened right before COVID. So kind of sharing my historical perspective, safety was a consistent and regular issue. Places like Williams, Powder Mill. And I think the planning was quite thorough. And well, I would say the planning was good, but when it came to especially like Williams and Old Marlboro, the town consistently said, let's get the trail open. You know, I'm kind of paraphrasing, right? Like get the trail open. And then once it's open, we can revisit it. But there's about 10 of these issues. Traffic, safety, speed, all of this needs to be looked at. And I think it's the obligation of the committee, it was in the past, to put, to keep the town accountable, to make sure that they revisit it. And if there's an issue, which I agree there's issues, especially at Williams and Powder Mill, that it's, put on the agenda. And you're as committee members, you're going to start hearing these more and more as people kind of come out of their COVID shells, but safety needs to be, looked at now that it's open and being used.
Right. And so I don't think we shirk our duty, but I think our charge is very clear that it relates directly to the trail. So where the trail crosses these places and there's an impact from speed and so on, we definitely step in. We can't say much about the rest of Williams Road, but certainly where it crosses the trail, we have an obligation, according to our charge, to take a stand. So thank you.
Yeah, all those crosswalks, right? Williams, Old Marlboro Road.
Yep.
Powder Mill, and I can imagine there's, other issues in other parts, but I do remember that there was not satisfaction as to what the safety was going to happen, what was being planned. For example, Williams, did not get the cross lights that Old Marlboro got, but there's as much speed and people not stopping. Powder Mill, there was questions as to like what the traffic was going to be because it was a terminus and it was more residential. It's still a cut through, and there's chronic speeding on that street, right? So again, it was a wait and see attitude by the town. Well, we've waited, we're seeing. So I think it is the obligation of the committee to attend to that. If it's a street issue and not it doesn't bump into the trail, then work, I would say work with other committees, but just from my perspective, kind of a little historical perspective.
Got it. Thank you. Other, Richard?
I think that, safe access to the trail and egress and access to the trail is certainly in our purview. So
yeah,
I would be in favor of sending a note over to the Transportation Advisory Committee, which I think is, again, we got words advisory in both of our committees, but just informing them that we've been approached by residents and they're concerned about various speed limits and too high speed limits, and we hope that they'll take a good look at it, because again, it is not just the crossing, it is people who are coming, using that point at which to access the trail, which I think logically means there's more people riding their bikes on that road as well. So I would be willing to make a motion to that effect, and I'd be willing to write the letter. I think as Marsha mentioned, there's a committee meeting next Wednesday, Transportation Advisory Committee. They're well aware of the issue, but I think as the Rail Trail Committee, we could just sort of add our considerable weight to just, that it is an issue that should be addressed.
Discussion, other committee members? John, you live in that area, right?
I do.
What are your thoughts?
Well, it's a problem. And one of the problems is people pushing the button to cross Old Marlboro.
They don't push the button.
And for me, it was interesting at the beginning of our current nightmare of going up. I don't mind getting off my bike or running my bike up near the button, but it was, what do I touch it with?
Oh yeah.
So I was elbowing the button, but it is, especially when it first opened. I live nearer to that crossing than the lady who spoke before. I have not heard a crash yet. That's not saying there wasn't one on April 5th. But when it first got opened, boy, I'd hold my breath, especially people going southbound, coming around the curve.
Yeah.
And I haven't had a bad incident recently on it, but it is a problem, and the only solution I consistently say to people is push the button, push the button.
Right. Well, I know if you've ridden up in Acton as it crosses 27, there are a couple of places where the light is automatic, that comes on as you approach it. And I don't know what the design differences were, but that's interesting. Other, Carol or Dorcas, any comments?
Yeah.
Okay. So Richard, do you want to make a motion for a specific?
Yeah, I move that the committee send a letter, a note to the Transportation Advisory Committee, encouraging them to take whatever measures necessary to ensure safety at the crossings, the rail trail crossing at Old Marlboro Road, I guess, and as well as at Williams.
Williams, yeah. Okay. I second that motion. Should we do any discussion on that motion before we take it to a vote?
Richard and Nat, is the intent that that letter would be ready for the next meeting that I think, Richard, you said is taking place?
It would be ready for I would have it prepared for the next Transportation Advisory Committee meeting, so we wouldn't review my letter.
Okay.
I can get a
Marcia,
copy of it out.
we're okay doing that, right, Marcia?
Well, it depends on the motion.
Okay.
The motion is that you are designating someone, and I
Me,
think
yeah.
Richard has volunteered to prepare that letter on behalf of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail Advisory Committee as discussed this evening.
Okay.
Right.
So let us update your motion, Richard,
Yes,
as described by Marcia.
that's correct.
Okay. So the motion would be to designate the co-chair, Richard, to draft a letter to be delivered to the Transportation Advisory Committee. What was the rest of that, Marcia?
With all the details that was.
With all the details, right.
I
Okay. With all the details as indicated by Richard, but the change in the motion is that Richard, we're authorizing you to write this on behalf of the committee.
Yes.
We have a second for that?
Second.
Roll call. So Adrian,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
Dorcas,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Carol,
Aye.
and I, Nat Welch, vote aye. So the motion is passed unanimously by roll call vote.
Did you ever have a question?
Barbara has a question. Barbara?
This is just back in reference to the push button crossing signals. Acton is going to be replacing all 5 of their crossing signals. Actually, the Friends made a grant to Acton. It's not all new signal, it's an upgrade, and I think it was a $5,000 per intersection. Not quite sure about that. So all of the intersections on the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail, as far as I know, north of Route 2 will have push button. No, not push button, automatic signals, all of them through Chelmsford, Westford, and Acton by this summer.
Okay. How can we get on that?
Yeah, we need the Friends to show us some love.
Well, you got to ask.
I have a question for Barbara. I just want to make sure I'm understanding the automatic part of it. So it begins flashing when a bicyclist arrives and stands in the vicinity of it. Is that it?
Well, I'm not sure the bicyclist actually stops or a walker stops. But there's a sensing device, and so when a trail user is approaching the intersection,
okay,
then the lights start flashing.
A sensor picks it. Yeah, there's a sensor in the trail crossing that picks up anybody approaching along the path, and
then it's a yellow blinking right to the cars coming.
Yeah, bright flashing LED. It's pretty.
Yeah.
It's pretty intense.
Yeah.
I think we had a picture of one in the spring newsletter if you want to look at it.
Okay, well, it sounds like we got to be talking to the Friends. Get a little love.
You gotta talk to Marcia. She needs to want it.
That's right. She needs to work. Okay. First, we have to work on Marcia. Okay, we'll do that. So she wants it.
I want restrooms first, porta potties in West Concord.
We pay for those too.
No, I haven't put the grant together yet.
No, seriously, we pay for 2 in Chelmsford already and 2 in Acton. We'd be delighted to pay for a porta potty.
Well, I just
begging to pay for a porta potty.
Request. That's all.
Carol,
Okay.
you
have the grant form?
Yes, you sent it to me.
Okay.
Thank you, Barbara. That's awesome. Carol, you had a question or a point?
No, I was confirming that porta potties there.
Okay, good. Deborah Elwood, could you identify yourself?
Hi, this is Deborah Elwood again at 173 Stone Root Lane. I think I am looking at the new drawings on the webpage right now, and I'm not sure I see the change addressed. I think the question was where the wrought iron fence was supposed to meet up with the wood fence. So It was expected to begin at the end of the 2 rail fence at 12 plus 50 and end at station 18 plus 00. And forgive me, I'm not great at seeing exactly where this is, but if I'm looking at the most current map, it looks like there is still a very large gap. It looks like it's sort of in front of, frankly, 153 Stone Root Lane in front of the Freeman house, where there's a really big gap, which is what the concern was. So maybe I'm reading it wrong. So I just want to make sure that specific concern is addressed.
Thank you. We'll make note of that.
Thanks.
Okay. Josh Galper.
Hi, Josh Galper again, 65 Stone Root Lane. Warmer weather has brought more people to White Pond and more trash to White Pond. In fact, the uptick in trash in the last week has been pretty noticeable. A number of us in the community have written to the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail about our concerns for White Pond with more people and the Rail Trail 2C coming shortly, being installed. I'd like to know, is the Rail Trail Committee, the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail Committee, you all engaging with other town departments at this time about White Pond management and the ability to pick up trash, ensure that the pond is being used responsibly, especially with the expectation of more people coming?
So we are not talking with other departments about trash pickup. We have advised the town based on comments we've heard about how we're going to protect the side of the trail that's been part of the 75% design plan, but we don't have any authority over what, White's Pond trash pickup. So I think that is another group that would take care of that. I don't know, Richard, if you or any other committee member has a comment on it.
Does the White Pond Advisory Committee, my impression was that they had somewhat jurisdiction over this in terms of a citizen group advocating for this. I mean, obviously, within our purview, we're interested in protecting the pond. But this, as weather gets better this summer, Natural Resources, I think, is hiring another ranger, or at least a ranger, and I assume that the police have been involved. And
that's a lot of, Richard, I'm sorry, but that's a lot of assumptions that I don't think are accurate. Do you guys know who is actually responsible for land management in places like Sachem's Cove?
No, we don't, and it's not really in our purview to know that.
Right, Marcia, do you know?
Sachem Cove is part of the municipal land. It is not necessarily Natural Resources Commission. It is the select board.
The town of Concord.
Town of Concord.
So that would be the town manager, I suppose.
Well, the select board and the town manager.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I see Carmen has appeared. I assume, Carmen, as head of the White Pond Advisory Committee, you'd like to say something?
Yes, I'm sorry. I don't have a raised hand on this computer that we can find. People around the pond have done a huge cleanup job in regard to the trash, and they've requested from the town some trash barrels and to get the trash collected. We're not in agreement yet on that, but they've been asked for.
Okay. Okay.
So it's in process.
Okay. Any other public comments? Okay. Our next meeting is June 3rd at 7 p.m. We will, as we talked about, figure out a site walk between now and June. And I'd like a motion to close the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Adrian?
Aye.
Aye. Richard?
Aye.
Dorcas?
Yes.
John?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. And this meeting is closed as of 8:30 p.m. Tonight. I'd like to thank everybody for their time. and look forward to seeing you at our next meeting. Thank you very much.